So walk me through the last 3 years then. And what was going through your mind starting in March 2020 and maybe coming up to now, because a lot of things happened, and your thoughts on the government's reaction?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, with everything I had worked on and campaigned on in my area of research and my interest in diet-related disease, we had a fast pandemic with COVID that exploited a slow pandemic of chronic disease, right? And one clear stat, which is important for people to understand all of that, is that 90% of the deaths globally from COVID now happened in countries where more than half the population were overweight or obese. So clear link there, and it's not I told you so, but if we had actually reversed the obesity epidemic or type 2 diabetes epidemic, something I've been campaigning on for a decade, through policy changes, through right education, through controlling misinformation on diet, then we probably wouldn't have suffered the death toll that we did. At the same time, I think it's important to acknowledge, not to undermine, certainly early on, COVID was particularly devastating for elderly and vulnerable groups. Infection fatality rate was several times higher than the flu. I think now when we look back, I think for people under 70, John Ioannidis actually published a paper on this, saying that the infection fatality rate in people under 70 was actually probably similar to the flu, which is reassuring. But yes, I even managed some patients with long COVID who are still struggling. So, it definitely was a novel virus. In fact, on that note, Brian, as well, I know you've spoken to many different people on this. Something I learned recently is, so when I was in Australia, I spent a day with, in fact, I stayed at his house, a gentleman who's considered one of Australia's most eminent immunologists. His name's Nick Petrovsky. Nick was the first scientist in the world to publicly to discover that the COVID virus came from a lab. It wasn't from a wet market. It had been engineered or manipulated by humans, right? And Nick was that guy. So I spent some time with Nick, and it was very interesting speaking to him about this, because I know people have all sorts of different theories, and this gain of function research, I'm sure you have your own ideas on this, which up until I spoke to Nick, no one had properly been able to explain to me. I'd spoke to Robert Malone about this as well. Like, what exactly is going on here? Is it scientists trying to get ahead of the curve, take viruses, coronaviruses, manipulate them a little bit to try and see how they can become more pathogenic or virulent, and then can we then do something to protect ourselves from this if this was to ever, be circulated widely in the population by producing vaccines? That sounds like a plausible explanation. But actually, it's interesting, that isn't the reason why gain-of-function research occurs, certainly according to Nick. And this may sound strange, what I'm about to tell you, but I can kind of understand this. It's done for purposes of just curiosity and interest amongst many of these scientists. You can say for fun. That may sound odd. I know that coming from an interventional cardiology background, I trained in keyhole heart surgery effectively. Surgeons, interventional cardiologists like to operate, right? Let's use this word. It is fun. It may sound, now listen, I'm not saying it's right. And of course, it's good that people enjoy what they do, but often if they're doing that at the expense of patients, that isn't right. So in some senses, there was that similar kind of mindset amongst, I think, some of these scientists. So they were doing this sort of work, and it had been one of the previous presidents in the US had defunded gain-of-function research in the US.
They made it illegal. Didn't Obama make it illegal?
Yeah.
And it was given an exception because it was previously funded.
And I understand, and I understand that Fauci, right, basically was part of all of this. I think wasn't happy. I think went to the military. The military didn't want to engage in it because they thought it was too risky. Absolutely. Like, why would you do this? Because of course things can go wrong. And then ultimately there was this joint American-Chinese lab in Wuhan. I think, listen, conspiracies can happen. They can come true. I like to look at things to see is there a more rational explanation. Often a lot of these things are cock-ups. And I think that school of thought has, it sounded very plausible to me that this escaped. And then of course, the powers that be wanted to cover that up. because it's embarrassing. But, they should have been honest with people, I think.
So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim. Watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy. The greedy bankers are about to do it again. In 2008, they crashed our financial system and nearly bankrupted the entire global economy. Then they received trillions of dollars in government bailouts. And after, they demanded fat bonuses paid for by you, the taxpayer.
It turns out the banks haven't just been screwing the American taxpayers, they're also screwing over their investors. Turns out the banking industry is the worst place you could put your money, despite enormous taxpayer bailouts.
Now the bankers are back to take away your financial freedom. They lie and tell you that cryptocurrency isn't safe. They try to make it illegal for you to choose how to invest your hard-earned money. They lie and say cryptocurrency is used by money launderers and criminals. But look at the record. It's the banks themselves that launder hundreds of billions of dollars every year to the biggest criminal operations in the world.
Leaked documents have revealed how some UK banks have helped criminals, money launderers and Russians under sanctions.
American authorities discovered that the Sinaloa cartel moved $881 million through HSBC accounts as bank officials turned a blind eye to the illegality.
The bankers lie and say cryptocurrency is not a real investment. Meanwhile, the smartest CEOs in the world are buying billions and billions of it. The truth is that banks lie about cryptocurrency because it makes them scared. The banks take $9 trillion per year of your hard-earned money, and they are worried that they will finally be exposed. They're scared because crypto means they can no longer control your money, which means they can no longer control you. They are scared because you might actually understand your money and intelligently decide what to do with it. Now is the time for us to come together, fight back, and take control. It's time to educate ourselves, our families, and our communities. Because financial education means financial freedom. We know that cryptocurrencies will help us build the new decentralized financial system of the future. A banking system that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. A banking system where access to finance is a fundamental human right. A banking system that is free and fair and welcomes all humans on this earth. The DeFi revolution is happening. We, the people, can no longer be fooled. We choose to take control of our finances. We choose to take control of our freedom. We choose to take control of our future. Join us, and let's take back our financial freedom forever.